On a foggy morning in 1954, the mountains of North Vietnam awoke to the whispers of soldiers and the drone of French aircraft circling over a remote valley called Dien Bien Phu. There, in that isolated spot surrounded by verdant highlands, destiny was writing one of the greatest chapters in the end of European colonialism in Asia. On the western bank of the valley, the French pitched their tents, confident they were building an impregnable fortress. French commander Christian de Castries paced among his new fortifications, looking at the cannons carefully positioned around the small airfield, and said to his officers with conviction, "We will turn this valley into a trap to swallow the Viet Minh." But on the other side of the mountains, other eyes were watching silently. Ho Chi Minh and his comrade, General Vo Nguyen Giap, were planning an attack that would change the course of history. They had no air force, no modern tanks, but they possessed something priceless, an unbreakable will. On rainy nights, tens of thousands of Vietnamese soldiers, men and women, began dragging heavy artillery on their shoulders through the forests and narrow mountain passes. The French heard only the wind and saw nothing but a thick fog concealing a silent army advancing toward them like a serpent. On March 13th, the first shots were fired. The earth trembled beneath the Vietnamese shells that rained down on the French fortifications from the mountaintops. The French were surprised to find that the enemy had positioned their artillery in places no one had imagined. The valley they had thought would be a trap for their enemies became a graveyard for their soldiers. For 57 days, the sky rained fire, and the water mingled with blood in the trenches. French planes tried to salvage what they could, but the clouds and mountains prevented them from landing. One night, de Castries sat in his dark bunker, listening to the roar of the bombardment, and whispered to his officer, "This is no longer a war, it is the end of an old French dream." On May 7th, after a desperate resistance, the guns fell silent, the French raised white flags, Dien Bien Phu fell, and with it, the last of France's illusions in Indochina.